Hello, 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 welcome back. Today it's all about designing and making your own stuff for Dungeons and Dragons, modern Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to do some design work, some fixing, some remastering, some revisiting. For those of you who are in the process of doing that, if you're not happy with what you've already got in the player's handbook or other supplements, that's what today is all about. And I'll put up a poll. Feel free to take part in that poll. And I'm going to be working on two backgrounds today. In fact, actually, as it happens, I was working on species last night, but we'll be getting to that in a couple of weeks. Anyway, grab some food, some drink, make sure you're comfortable. Let's get into this. We have a lot to do and never enough time to do it. So, we should start. Hi, welcome to How to D&D. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Jackasses? No, Dungeons and Dragons, not Jackasses. And we're looking at backgrounds for Dungeons and Dragons 5e 2014, 2025, whatever you want to call it. I don't mind. And we're going to fix or remaster the athlete for Dungeons and Dragons 5e. Which was released in a book a little while ago called The Mythic Odysseys of Theros. One of my favourite 5e books. I think it's quite good. And generally, I was relatively happy with their purchase of that book. And so we're going to do some work on that. We're also going to do a doctor. I don't believe there is currently a doctor background, but I thought that would be something that somebody might say, look, I want to. Before I was an adventurer, I was a doctor, a medicine person, a medicine man, medicine woman, something like that. How can I build that background in? And I think that's actually quite a reasonable one. It's potentially quite strong because it's pretty valuable being able to heal. But first off, let's ask the question. I have a document that I've already started. Because I always do a little bit of homework before I start these projects. So, how would you fix or redesign the athlete background for Dungeons and Dragons 5e or 5.5. I'm going to refer to 5e and 5.5 sort of interchangeably. I know they really aren't the same thing. I know some people think that it is because there's not much of a difference, but there are significant changes. So it is essentially a different game. It is built on the very similar bones, but yeah, it is a different game. So that's my question to those of you out there. Now, let's get to the document that I've been working on and start working our way through that, because that is where we're going to spend most of our time today. So here we go. This project is actually in conjunction with Wally DM. I'll be getting him to help me publish this once it's ready, which would probably, I don't know, I'm guessing it'll probably be a month from now, maybe a little bit over a month, because we've got 2 to do today and another 4 to do after today. So then we should have all the material we need, and then it's just about art and layout. So January, I think that's right. Did I spell it right? Oh, did I? Okay, cool. So we've already established, for those of you who are unaware, that the ability score increases have been pulled out of the backgrounds. 2024 has included them as part of the backgrounds rather than the species. I've made them completely separate and optional. Okay, so you don't have them attached to your background at all. This is all of how I'm going about designing these. The starting feat, the origin feats, they are also optional and not connected to background at all. Okay, so backgrounds are built as the custom one. It's just background characteristics like personality traits, flaws, your goal, your loyal relationship, that sort of stuff. And then that's the stuff you make up, the sort of the flavor, the nature, how you play the character. And then we've got our skill proficiencies. We get a tool proficiency. We get languages here, which I think is where it should be, not somewhere else. Our background feature, which has actually got a mechanical aspect to it to make sure that you know how to use it. And then we also have equipment. Okay, and equipment is nice and simple. Okay, it's basically 50 gold worth of equipment. That is not armor and weapons. So we need, yeah. So far we've done the fisher, or fisherman, or fisher folk. We've done the gambler. We've actually completed work on the acolyte. We've done the artisan, which is quite an involved one. The charlatan, the criminal. I think the charlatan and the criminal are very similar. Do we need them? I don't know. Entertainer, for those of you who are after an entertainer. A farmer, because I think a farmer is a good one to have. The guide, okay. The hermit, the merchant, the noble, the sailor, because who doesn't want to be a sailor? The sage or the scholar, which is a combination of about 3 different backgrounds into one. The wayfarer we haven't done, but I believe the wayfarer we will probably wind up deleting, but I'm not going to cover that today. And here we are. Here's the athlete. So this is where I sort of started my journey in terms of how I would go about designing it. So first off, we need to start off with our narrative. An individual who is proficient in sports and other forms of physical exercise or activity, or recreational activity. Okay, there we go. So we've got a definition, so we know what we're working from. So the background characteristics are always exactly the same. The players will create their personality trait. It's up to them. Their flaw, their goal, and their relationship, their loyal relationship that they have with an individual or group. So that's nice and easy. Skill proficiencies. The original one has athletics and acrobatics as the skill proficiencies for the athlete. And I don't think that's wrong. I think that Wizards of the Coast is completely right. Those are the 2 that you should get. And there isn't really a choice. There isn't sort of flexibility around this. Because when you look at the different skills that are available in 5e, those 2 probably are the most sensible to assign to this. So I don't think this is a design problem or a design factor or anything like that. I actually think they nailed that one down quite nicely. And I'm quite happy with the fact that they have selected those. But let's quickly have a look at the skills to make sure there's nothing we want to consider adding, because there may be something we have not considered. Athlete. Sports, recreational activity. Okay, so athletics, yes. Acrobatics, I think also yes. They're kind of tied and connected. Sleight of hand is about sort of stealing and doing, it's not really what an athlete does. Stealth, it's probably not related. Arcana, history, investigation, nature, religion, none of those are sort of related. Animal handling. You might say, we could say that, well, what about if they're an equestrian? Possibly animal handling is one that we could add. We could have an option to go that way. So I'm going to put into here brackets, animal handling. I can see a place for it. I can, believe it or not. That one, potentially, yes. Insight, I'm going to ignore that skill as if it doesn't exist. Medicine is not related. Perception is not related. Survival is not. What sort of athletic activity that's sports related might involve survival? I guess we could say potentially survival too. I can see some events that would involve survival. Cross-country run, Ironman events. There's a degree of survival required in something like that. Even the marathon. If you disagree with me, you let me know. But I'm going to add survival as well. Okay. Deception, no. Intimidation, I don't think so. That's bad sportsmanship. Performance, no. And persuasion, no. I don't think those work. But what is probably the key one? I think we have to decide, is the athlete that we're dealing with more acrobatic or more athletic? And I am open to giving them a little bit of choice around this. So let's go down and have a look. Medicine and select one of the following. So I'm going to go with here. I'm going to take this and I'm going to bring this up and paste and get rid of medicine. So I'm going to say athletics or acrobatics. Acrobatics. And select one of the following. I'm going to put slash here. No, I'm going to put or, because then, yeah, otherwise you might think you're getting 3, and we don't want them to think that. So now we're going to get rid of acrobatics. Athletics or acrobatics, and select one of the following. Animal handling, and how did I write it? Animal handling or survival. Survival. So we'll put that in. I want to put in another little sentence here, just to make it clear. Otherwise, you can select copy, paste, and acrobatics. If that's the way, if you want to go that way, but if you want to be a bit more specialized, maybe you're dealing with the Ironman events or triathlons or something like that, and survival, and you're in the wilderness. There, you know, hunting. There are some types of hunting that are sort of like a sport, so a bit of survival might be involved in that as well. So we're going to make that. We're going to open that up a little bit. Okay. I am very keen to see what people think of this, whether they think that I'm on the wrong track. I don't think that, as I said, I don't think the original sort of layout for the skill proficiencies was bad for the athlete. I think it was fine. This is really where it starts getting tricky. I think tool proficiencies for the athlete are actually really difficult to establish. It's not really that clear what we should be giving them as potential tool proficiencies. And I mean, I think the original athlete in Mythic Odysseys of Theros said vehicles, land. Why vehicles? Like, do athletes use vehicles? I put down climber's kit, but I don't know why you would suggest vehicles as land or water as an athlete sort of tool proficiency. If you could explain to me why that would make sense, please do. But let's have a look at the different tools to see what would probably stand out as potentially being the right one to select. If you go through the artisan tools, alchemists, no. Brewers, no. Calligrapher, don't think so. Definitely not brewer, because you shouldn't be getting drunk. Carpenter, not really. It's not really related to the sport of being an athlete if you're involved in a sport. Cartographer tools, I don't think so. Even if we've got survival as a potential option, I don't think we need to be that open. Cobbler's tools, cooking utensils, no. Glass blowers, jewelers, no. Leatherwork, mason tools, painters, potters, smith tools, tinker, weaver, woodcarver. I don't think any of them. Disguise kit and forgery kit don't make sense to me at all. Can I see an athlete focusing on game sets when they're really about their body? I think we're probably getting too much in the weeds if I were to do that, so we'll leave that alone. The herbalism kit, climber's kit and herbalism kit, it kind of, I suppose it could, but musical instruments, you know, the climber's kit is probably the one that stands out the most to me. Navigator's tools, poisoner's kit, thieves' tools, and in vehicles, land or water. This is why I've put climber's kit and I am unsure. I suppose you could say but that would be sailor. So you go with a sailor's background. If you're around, using a vehicle, that's more a sailor. We don't want to step on the toes of the sailor. And then why would a land vehicle be a thing? I guess potentially if you're using a chariot, chariot races, maybe that's what it is. Vehicle. Land. What's another thing? I guess if you were a surfer or not so much a sailor, but maybe, well, maybe it's not navigating the seas that you're dealing with. It's not so much the sailor aspect of navigating the seas, but you're more about sailing for racing. Then I guess water would make sense, wouldn't it? I'm from New Zealand, so sailing is a major sport here in New Zealand. There are key things that Kiwis do, and that's usually playing rugby, netball, soccer, which is also called football in the rest of the world, for those of you who aren't aware. And big one is swimming, but sailing is right up there in the top end of the sort of sports because we're surrounded by water. It's basically an island. So, yeah, we could go with select one from these. That could be an option. Select one from the following. We could do something like that. I'll go here, copy, and go back. And then, yeah, you'll let me know if you think that's probably a better way of going about it, giving you a little bit more flexibility with the tool proficiency that you can have. I think those are the tool proficiencies that make most sense to me. Because, yeah, if you're an athlete and you do need to be quite fit if you're competitive sailing. Anyway, I mean, even race car driving, but it's a fantasy world, so you're not necessarily getting into a Fred Flintstone vehicle. And so, okay, languages is pretty much the same. I do the same thing. I always give them common, and you get one language of your choice that you select. Okay, and then we need to decide on the athlete feature. And I think you have advantage on athletics, strength checks, or acrobatics dexterity checks that you are proficient with. That you are proficient with. So this is to reflect the idea that you might be going the dexterity route or you might be going the strength route. And there's a little bit of choice around that. And I'm fine with that being a thing. I don't have an issue at all doing something like that. So that's what we've got so far for the athlete. We've got to do some equipment loadouts. But I think what we'll do first is let's go have a look and see what people have to say in terms of what they think would be a better way of building it, and any feedback that you have before I continue on. We haven't been going for very, very long, so that's good. All right, so we got some feedback here. What have people written down? Fred Huber is a patron and a moderator. Thank you for being here, Fred. Okay, so Fred, you have got here, I didn't have the book, so no opinion on how to alter it. Fair enough, Fred Huber. It's all good. Prepare, cook, and survive. Hi, Fred and Fred. Yeah. Two Freds are in the house. Chariots, possibly. Yeah. Prepare, cook, and survive. I was thinking chariots is possibly why they had, vehicles land. But I mean, you could also sort of like a land yacht is something that you could build in a fantasy world. A land yacht is very much low tech sailing on, so you could have a land yacht. Bicycles, I guess so. But the chariot came to mind, and animal handling because of riding horses, and that's there are lots of sports around horses. Polo's one. They've got one in Afghanistan where they drop a dead animal in a circle or whatever. There's a whole bunch of these things. So rowing, yes, true, rowing. That absolutely, rowing and canoeing and kayaking. I'm an athlete. I spent 10 years rowing a galley. Yeah, fair enough. Left side to left arm is stronger. Vehicle proficiencies aren't a thing anymore in 2024, aren't they? Have they taken them out completely? I didn't check that. So that would be an example as to why you wouldn't have it if they've taken vehicle proficiencies out. I was completely unaware of that. Hey, thank you for that, Roper 666 or 666. That's quite useful. Football can mean US football. No, it can if you're in North America, but everybody else recognises that soccer is football, and the almost 8 billion people in the world, rather than the 250 to 350 million people in the States. So I think are there vehicle proficiencies in DMD 2024 are generally not presented. Okay, so they're generally not presented. These specific proficiencies were intentionally removed, with the designers likely intending for vehicle operation to be handled via general ability checks, which is fair enough, such as using animal handling, bingo, or navigator's tools. What the heck? Okay, all right. But I mean, we could also say that the acrobatics check and the athletics check might be suitable for these as well. Okay, so I think you've kind of headed in the direction I was really kind of hoping to sort of lean more into the direction of it being able to be used by 2014 and 2024, both versions. But well, let's just make it the Climbers Kit, Tool Proficiency Climbers Kit. It's probably the only one that would make sense. There really isn't another tool proficiency that would make sense, if that being the case, based on what you've just mentioned. I can't see a good enough reason to lean into that. Yeah, okay, all right, I can see that. Let's lean into that concept. So it means that it's going to be the Climbers Kit. I'm not against that idea, because I haven't really given you a lot of other stuff that's sort of related to that. So that's probably the most sensible one. And Navigator's Tools just leans too much into being a sailor. So that's fine. We'll just go with the Climbers Kit. Languages. You gain common and one language of your choice. Okay, that's fine. Athlete. You have advantage on athletics, strength checks, or acrobatics, dexterity checks that you are proficient with. There we go. So that's really just leaning into whichever way you want to go with that. I think that's fine. Okay, so that is what we've got. Now we need to do our loadouts for gear. And I think what we need to do is we need to have option B, which is you just have 50 gold pieces and you go and buy what you need. Or you have a Climbers Kit, which would be option A. So let's have a look at how much all of that is going to wind up costing. I believe the Climbers Kit. Where is the Climbers Kit? Why can't I see it? Climbers Kit, Climbers Kit. Is it not in that section? It's not under Tools? No. It's not under Tools. It must be somewhere else. It's not there. It's under General Adventuring Equipment, probably. So 25 gold pieces. So we're going to add, and we're going to have a kit for if you're going to have a Climbers Kit. Climbers Kit. Climbers kit, climbers kit. Okay. 25. So what other things might you have as an athlete that would make sense to help solve the loadout for them? I don't think an abacus, acid, alchemist's fire, none of that really makes sense. So I don't think we'll be using any of them. Antitoxin is too expensive, and it doesn't really, I don't think that makes sense either. Ammunition is not going to be the thing. Arcane focus, don't think so. Backpack. I think a backpack we could say is a pretty common item, so we'll go with backpack. Ball bearings, probably not. A barrel, basket, bedroll. Let's just give them the bedroll. What else? A bell. Why would you have a bell? Blanket, no. Block and tackle, probably not. Book, no. Bottle, no. Bucket, no. Caltrops, no. Candle, probably not. Crossbow, map case, no. Chain, chalk. Chalk actually is a thing. I would say chalk because it's about grip. When you're an athlete, gripping something is really important, right? So let's put in chalk. I didn't think that chalk would come up. Chest, climber's kit, we've got that already. Clothes, I think common clothes. So, common clothes. Not a costume. Crowbar, probably not. It's not really what an athlete has on them, so no. Component pouch, no. Druid focus, none of that. Fishing tackle, no. Flask and tackle, grappling hook, no, because they've got that stuff in the climber's kit. Hammer, sledgehammer, healer's kit. I think first aid kit is kind of pretty common for even an athlete, so let's go with healer's kit. They have a lot of injuries. Healer's kit, so we're adding healer's kit. Holy symbols, holy water, none of that. Hourglass, hunting trap, no. Ink, pen, jug, ladder, lamp, lantern, lock, magnifying glass, manacles, mess kit. No, we'll leave that alone. Mirror, steel. I suppose you could, I want to pose. Huh. No, not really. Oil. They're not oiling down their bodies, are they? Although maybe they are. Let's add in an oil flask. This is amusing. Oil flask. What else do we got here? Oil flask, paper, perfume. I will add in the mess kit. Why not? Most athletes that I know are kind of pedantic about their diet and food and so forth. Minus pick, pitons, no, we've already got that sort of stuff. Poison, pole, no. Potion of healing, can't have that. Pouch, don't think so. Quiver, no, that's more around combat. Ram, rations. We could put rations, but I think you can buy those. Robe, hemp rope, salt, that's all part of your climber's kit anyway. Sack, scale, sealing wax, no. Shovel, signal, whistle. Actually, a whistle would probably make sense. Like, there are so many sports that use some sort of whistle. So a signal, whistle. Signal whistle. Here we go. Signet ring, no. Soap, spellbook, spikes, hourglass, tent, tinderbox, torch. Water skin, though. I think a water skin is pretty common. So let's go water skin. So I just need to add all of those items up. So if I pull up my calculator, where is the calculator? Have they hidden it? Ah, there it is. Okay, so starting off at the very beginning, it's 25 for the healer's kit. The backpack is add 2 gold. Bedroll. Add 1 gold. What's next? Bedroll. Chalk. Chalk is almost worth nothing. It's 1 copper. It's not even gonna worry about it. Common clothes though, it's 5 silver, so it's half a gold. I'm not gonna count that just yet. I don't think there's much point. Healer's kit though is 5 gold, so add plus 5. Okay, so we've got the healer's kit. The mess kit might require a bit of money. Mess kit is 2 silver. I'm not going to worry about that. And then the oil flask is 1 silver. Okay, fine, but yeah, not really worth worrying about too much. Signal whistle is a good question. What is the signal whistle? Copper, 2 copper. And then the water skin. The water skin is 2 silver. I think we can just deduct all those silvers and coppers. It comes to about one gold. So we go another 1. So it's 34. So 50 take away 34, and that will leave how much money you have left. So yeah. So I think that's 16 rather than 15. 14. That's 16. 16 GP. Okay, so there's our kit. So you either take option A or option B. And we've got our athlete, I think, pretty much pimped out. Ready to go. Ready to play with. Okay, so now that I've done that, let's have a look at the next one. Since we've covered that one, we should be able to work on the doctor. And we've spent about half our time doing that. Okay, so... yeah, doesn't need vehicles. Yeah, I've taken it off. Give them cooking for their tendency to eat weird stuff. I suppose you could, but I don't think we need to worry about that. I get the navigation tools wasn't the Olympics starting from long distances. Yeah, runners delivering messages, they would need a map and a compass. Yeah, I think to a large extent I'm inclined not to lean into the navigator's tools just because they usually had waypoints as well. Yes, there wasn't. I believe it was the sundial was the thing back then, wasn't it? Fred Huber, they didn't have actual proper compasses back during the Olympics. I'm surprised that Fred thought the Greeks invented most things. Naturalistic background. Well, it's just it's when it was invented, I think. A sundial is a type of compass. It just works differently. Naturalistic background does not include clothes. You want me to take clothes off, eh? That's the whole background. No clothing. Yes to the oil. He's laughing. Okay. Hey, I have some bad news. A climber's kit, unlike the other kits, is not a tool proficiency. It's just an item anyone can use, like a healer's kit. So here's my thoughts. I think it is a toolkit. I think because you've got to look at how the mechanics for that is going to work. So if you have a look at the climber's kit and what it has and how you would apply it. Like a healer's kit includes special pitons, boot tips, gloves, and other harnesses. You can use the climber's kit as an action to anchor yourself. When you do so, so it reduces your falling, But I think it should also, if we treat it like a toolkit, because it really is, we're not just talking about what they have designed. So Roper 666. We're not just talking about what the designers of Wizard of the Coast have created in 2024 and 2014 in terms of how they have viewed something, because sometimes they balls it up. And I think that it's a mistake to not treat the climber kit as a tool, because it most certainly is a tool. So I think what we do is we say that there is something about that climber's kit that makes them able to use it more efficiently. I guess the problem would be is there could be sort of, if you're looking at climber's kit, that's probably an athletics check. If you're already getting advantage because you're an athlete and you've got athletics, then getting the climber's kit proficiency is a big deal. But I can see where its application might yield problems in terms of sort of seeing it as a tool, and what sort of mechanical benefit are you getting from it. But I think that's overridden by the fact that we've specified that you're not getting advantage on the climber's kit, you're getting advantage on the athletics check or the acrobatics check, whichever you're proficient with. So I'm inclined to say that that is actually a tool. I think this is a mistake that they will probably have to correct in the future, because it is actually a tool. If you think in terms of logically, and there's not a lot of logic in D&D, but if you think about it logically, it's a tool. It is a tool. How it's defined by Wizards of the Coast, they define a lot of things that don't make any sense. So I think we lean into it is a tool. Okay. Okay, so let's Cal-Rel, what have you got here? Forceps, bone levers, probes, hooks. What are you talking about? Bacterial use, vinegar, resin, pine, birch, beeswax, aloe vera. You're going into a lot of stuff. What are we talking about here? Pain relief. Oh, you're talking about what can be used for treatment. Oh, I see. Wounds, background gets +1 to the toolkits used. No, the feature that I'm giving them is they're getting advantage on either the athletics check or the acrobatics check. But I think they should be proficient with the climber's kit. So it would be possible, you could say it would be possible to have proficiency with the climber's kit, but lean into acrobatics. So you get your proficiency bonus when you're making I guess a strength check with your climber's kit. But since you've gone more into acrobatics, you would have advantage on the acrobatic check, but not advantage on the athletics check that might be related to your climber's kit. So there is actually a mechanical benefit, and it's just not completely obvious. So I think we're all right. Oh, what's in the toolkit? Oh, I see. You're listing all the different things. I see. Okay. Well, let's deal with the next thing. This is obviously the first draft, so I might change my mind, but I think for now that we treat the climber's kit as a tool, because it makes no sense that it isn't. But Roper, thank you for that information. Right, now we want to do the doctor. How would you design the doctor background? This is probably a little bit more difficult doctor background for Dungeons and Dragons 5e or 5.5. So let's deal with that one. Okay, I've already done some work on it. I am very much aware that this is something that would be easily exploited and could wind up being a go-to. I'm always concerned when there's a background that might wind up being a go-to as the only background to be picked up. Like the human species, it's a unicorn, right? So you would always go to that. Just like, don't select an actual pre-made background, just go straight for I'll make my custom background, because I get more options. I can build it the way I want, which is fine, but I'm also aware that people want some pre-made stuff as well, which is why I'm doing it. Okay, doctor, an individual who is qualified and skilled to treat someone who is sick or diseased. Sick, injured, or diseased. Injured or diseased. I think that covers the doctor. Our background characteristics, so they come up with a personality trait, a flaw, goal, and a relationship. Well, a relationship, that's all going to be the same for all of them. And then we have skill proficiencies. Well, here we go. We've got to look at what would be the most sensible ones to have. Well, I think we can't look past medicine. if we're not taking medicine as one of our skills with a doctor, you've probably made a mistake, right? So we can't say no to that one. Am I actually showing this on the screen to you guys? Yes, I am. Thank God for that. Okay. I was just a little concerned that I maybe have started this process and not showing you what I'm doing. Okay, so let's now decide on how this works. We want to give them 2 skill proficiencies. One has to be medicine. I don't think athletics fits or acrobatics for a doctor. I don't think sleight of hand does, or stealth. But I can see an auxiliary skill being something like, probably not Arcana. I suppose you could say potentially Arcana because, you know, there's magic healing. But I'm inclined to say no to Arcana. History doesn't make sense. Investigation is really about deducing. I guess I put investigation for deducing. It's because it sort of kind of sits nicely with the idea of medicine investigation, because you're sort of deducing why something might be the way it is. It's a deduction, and an investigation is around that sort of thing. So that's what I put it. So it's like a forensic doctor, I guess. It's like Sherlock Holmes, or Dr. Watson, probably a better example, right? Dr. Watson's a better example. He's a forensic doctor. He's also a doctor, but he does a lot of forensic stuff. And then there's nature, and I thought nature because of, you know, there's the vet, healing, animal handling. I thought that was sort of would work. Nature because herbal remedies, stuff like that. Maybe you need to know a bit about nature, and you want to lean more into the sort of naturalistic side of things. Religion, less likely. I don't think that's sort of one that I would lean on. I suppose you could say that there's healing through faith healing. I don't know, how do people feel about adding in something like religion? I feel like if we're doing religion, we have to do Arcana as one of the ones you would select. So I'm going to put this in brackets and see what people have to say. Arcana, healing, religion, healing. Or faith healing, I guess. Medicine and religion, medicine and Arcana. Yeah, I suppose they kind of do still work. I guess it depends on how you would want to structure it. Okay, now the tool proficiencies. I don't think deception, intimidation, performance, or persuasion make any sense. I'm not putting down survival. Perception is a super skill, so we don't use super skills and backgrounds. We'll leave that for them to do when they select their skills in their class. Medicine, we've already got. Insight. Okay, so we've kind of covered all the bases for the skills. Now we're on to tool proficiencies. I think tool proficiencies are going to be a little bit easier because there is a couple of tools. Now I am very much aware that, again, somebody's probably going to say that a healer's kit is not a tool. I would say that a healer's kit is a tool because there is I guess the problem with the healer's kit is that if you do have a healer's kit, you don't really have to make a check, right? That's the big problem with the healer's kit, is that you're not actually making a check to determine success anymore, because a healer's kit gives you automatic success. This kit is a leather pouch containing bandages, salves, splints. The kit has 10 uses as a creature. So basically, you don't need to make a wisdom medicine check if you have a healer's kit. So giving them tool proficiency in healer's kit, given the mechanics of the game, might feel like it's a waste of time, and that the herbalism kit is more useful. One, because it's listed as a healer's kit, and another because you will actually get to make checks with it. Whereas the tool proficiency itself with the healer's kit, anybody can use a healer's kit. That's the problem, right? This is why I've got to select one of the following. So we might have to take the healer's kit out. We might have to take that out just because mechanically it's going to feel like you're getting nothing Whereas with the other way, you know, when we're dealing with the climbers kits, you're not actually getting nothing. You're actually getting a benefit of some kind. The herbalism kit, absolutely, you're getting something. And I don't think that backgrounds necessarily need to always have a injured. Is that American spelling or is that spell check? I feel like it might be going American spelling. Injured. I'll come back to it. Okay. Yeah. So we've kind of got some questions to answer. You gain common, obviously, because I'm just going to say that because we want everybody in the group to be able to speak the same language so they can communicate with each other, at least, and potentially with most of the other creatures and other characters and monsters in the game. Well, maybe not the monsters, but at least the NPCs and most of the other characters in the party. One language of your choice, that's all pretty standard. We don't need to change that. That gives you plenty of choice. And the doctor's feature, you have advantage on checks related to one. Now, I think that's the problem. We don't want to be doing that. That would be a mistake to do that. You have advantage on checks related to healing with let's go here, medicine. Medicine is, if I remember right, it's wisdom, isn't it? It's a wisdom check. Wisdom checks. Healing and diagnosis. Healing and diagnosis. Okay. I think that's broad enough that we capture what we want the doctor to be able to do. Correct? And then we're going to get into equipment in a second. But I think we need to address whether we feel like Arcana should be an option and religion. Medicine is not a choice. You have to have it. It's part of being a doctor, right? You've got to have that one. But maybe you're specialised, you're more into animal medicine, or maybe you're more into forensic medicine, which would be investigation. Maybe you're more into naturalistic medicine, which would mean nature. Maybe you're more into magical medicine, so that would be Arcana. And maybe you're more into sort of faith or religious healing and medicine. So we could have those as options. That wouldn't be a really big problem. It would give a lot of flexibility to the background. Absolutely. So let's have a look and see what people have to say. I'm kind of curious. Do you know, I've had so much fun making this stuff up. Roper, I see something down there. Alchemist supplies. Possibly. I'll get to that in a second. Let me just start at the top. Granny's, clam pits, healer's kit, labelled jug. So I'd have a Dr. Merkel side to him. I think giving the healer's kit as gear to a doctor is a no-brainer. It should absolutely happen. But whether we treat it as something that is going to be necessary as a tool, since it seems to be that anybody can use it and they perform more than adequately with it, that's a big factor. The alchemist supplies, I think that might be a way of leaning into the other side of things. Herbal law for sure. Yes, yeah. Good charisma for bedside manner. Yes. Dr. House, bedside manner, 0. Yeah. He's a rogue doctor. Okay. Calrell, what do you got here? Couldn't history be used? His study of historical medicine manuscripts gives him a better understanding of medicine. I would say no, because all doctors have to deal with history. That is the whole point of study, is you look at, like a lawyer, you look at research and documentation in the past, and you carry that forward. So I think history is probably the wrong thing to put down, because all doctors will have been using that in some way. So I think history, we leave that alone. Religion and history are valid points. I think religion has a place, but as I said, having known a few doctors and veterinarians, they always approach history, but it's not something that they necessarily I think we need to put down. I think history would lead them down a garden path for what players might be wanting to try to do. I don't want to create a background trap. I want to hopefully point them in the direction so that they're trying to achieve what they want to try to achieve without being complete dicks, of course. Doctor to overweight person, my scales won't handle lifestyle. Okay, all right, okay. We've got doctor jokes now. Okay, now, Roper 666. This is feedback that I'm going to take quite seriously. I don't want to create an advanced healer's kit, Fred Huber. But I think let's have a very close look at the alchemist supplies to see what it's trying to do, to see if that is actually what he's suggesting. So for the tool, you could also go for alchemist supplies for a doctor using more chemical medicines instead of naturalistic remedies. And I would agree, provided that is what the alchemist supplies actually does. Because theoretically in your head you might think that, but is that how they have designed the alchemist supplies to work? That's the real question, right? Because I would like it to work that way. I think Roper presents a good argument that it could be considered that way. But have they folded too much mechanics into the game that would allow it not to be used that way? So, I think we have established a pretty good point of contention that the toolkit is the issue. Let's have a look at that. So I'm going to go over to this. I'm going to say, look, let's open this up and give you a few more options for this background, medicine and one or the other. So let's go with animal arcana, possibly. So we're going more magical healing. So we'll go here, because that might come up for sure. And then let's go with religion as well. Let's include religion as a possible one you could use. R is after N, so that's going to go here. We'll get rid of the or. So am I showing you guys this stuff? Yes, I am. Okay, so now we need to answer the question. I think we have answered the question that the healer's kit is actually a tool, but because the tool itself basically states that you get automatic success, there's no point sort of giving you the tool proficiency, because anybody can use a healer's kit and be good at it. Okay. So, how does the healer's kit in D&D 4E work? Because I haven't actually specifically looked that up. Here we go. So, in 2024 rules, the healer's kit is a piece of adventuring gear with 10 uses that allows a character to stabilize a dying creature within 5 feet using a utilize action. Blah, 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 blah. God, I hate that utilize action phrasing. Without needing to make a wisdom check, medicine check. Again, there it is. It's still got it. It's still automatic success. Doesn't matter who you are. You don't have to really be proficient with a healer's kit to be able to do anything with it. You just got to have one. When paired with the revised healer feat, the kit can also be used to expend hit dice to restore health. Okay, so we're not looking at that aspect of it. I don't want to tie that in. That's not what a background should be trying to do. So unfortunately, I think the healer's kit that I put down before isn't going to work thematically, but also game-wise in terms of what you're trying to achieve. Because everybody is proficient with a healer's kit. That's essentially what we're saying. What we are saying, though, is we may have to add another one, and it is the alchemist supplies. So let's do a little bit of research and see what we have. This is going to be interesting. Let's have a look at the healer's kit in terms of how it works or what it's like in 2014, and then review the healer's kit for 2024. I think that's probably the best way to go about doing this. So healer's kits. Okay, alchemist supplies. And the alchemist supplies are listed where in the book? Is it anywhere? May not be in this book at all. It's not actually listed in this book. Great. So there's no guidance on it? No, alchemist's fire, but the alchemist supplies are not covered at all in the player's handbook for 2014. Does the new book cover the alchemist supplies and what's in them and how they work? Because it doesn't exist in the, I mean, they've got the healer's kit breakdown, but they don't have the alchemist supplies breakdown. That's not a good thing, is it? We need that. So how does the alchemist supplies? And I know how the herbalism kit works in 2014 and how it works essentially in, I think it's Xanathar's Guide to Everything, that they have a breakdown of the tool proficiencies. 2024 alchemist supplies are artisan tools used with intelligence check, okay, to identify substances. Okay, so it's used to identify substances. This could kind of lean into the forensic nature of medicine. Starts fires, crafts items like acid, alchemist fire, soap, or perfumes. Okay, so there's a few things going on here. They allow for potion crafting at half the usual time and cost, half value in materials, and provide bonuses to arcana investigation checks. Okay, so really it's about brewing magical potions used with identifier to identify potions, poisons, or other substances. I think the problem with the alchemist supplies is it's not defined in terms of what he's talking about, although it would be good if it did, and how it's used. Crafting during some doses of acid, alchemist fire, antitoxin though. See, antitoxin is that would be a thing that would make sense. This is why I am. It's partially leaning into this, but it sort of goes in another direction. So there is a problem here, and that it kind of covers a couple of different things. Experimental elixirs. At the end of a long rest, you can produce 2 later. More magical elixirs. Okay, you can also expand a spell slot to create additional elixirs choosing. Right, so it kind of leans in. This is the artificer, which I'm going to ignore because I think it's garbage. What does an alchemist supply do? And so what does it do? I guess we also need to know what's in it. Like what is actually in the alchemist supplies would be a useful thing to understand, because I can see there is a partial argument for this, for sure. It's just now about whether it would work and whether we're leaning too much to something that was not intended. Okay, so let's figure that out. I should go grab that book, open it up, since I know I've got it close by. I'm putting up the break screen, but I'm going to be gone like a minute. I don't think Xanathar's Guide to Everything is very far away, so finding the Alchemist Supplies breakdown in that book is probably the best way, since I don't think 2024 it's got enough information. 1 minute and I'm back. Okay, I'm back. I've got the book in front of me, and there's some rather interesting information here about Alchemist Supplies. So let's sort this out, because this might be legitimately something that would make sense. It also has, unfortunately, the potential to allow the players to do other things that we may not want them to be able to do, but let's address this. So on page 79 of Xanathar's Guide to Everything, Alchemist Supplies enable a character to produce useful concoctions, such as acid or alchemist fire. So that's the first thing it says. That's kind of seems to be what it's trying to do. What are the components of this thing, though? Let's have a look. Alchemist Supplies includes 2 glass beakers, and whether that's not an issue. A metal frame to hold a beaker in place over an open flame. Okay, a glass stirring rod, a small mortar and pestle, and a pouch of common chemical ingredients. Including salt, powdered iron, and perfumed water. Why the hell would you have perfumed water? Distilled water, I know that makes a lot of sense, but this one doesn't. Let's pull up the page that where you can see what I'm looking at here. Let's keep this focused on whether we add in the Alchemist Supplies. Next, Arcana. So if you're making an Arcana check, proficiency with Alchemist Supplies allows you to unlock more information on Arcana checks involving potions and similar materials. It's kind of part of the sort of forensic nature, I guess, that we were thinking about. Investigations also included. When you inspect an area for clues, proficiency with Alchemist Supplies grants additional insight into any chemical or other substance that might have been used in the area. And I think that would mean poisons to kill somebody. Or maybe a gas, or something like that. So I can see where you're going with this. Alchemical crafting. Okay, so there's a couple of things here about alchemical crafting. They've also got some DCs here. Create a puff of thick smoke. Well, unrelated to what we want a doctor to do. Identify a poison, though, is listed as a DC 10. I think the DC 10 is kind of shit, but if you're proficient with Alchemist Supplies, then identifying a poison, maybe that's the DC you get and everybody else gets a DC 20. It's really hard. Or can't do it at all because they're just not trained and skilled in the area. Identify a substance. Again, I can see that being something that a doctor would probably be able to do to a certain degree. Start a fire, kind of unrelated. I think anybody can start a fire. Neutralize an acid, but also, I think when you say neutralize an acid, I think that means also neutralize a poison. So I could see that making sense. Now, what can you craft with alchemist crafting? You can use this tool proficiency to create alchemical items. A character can spend money to collect raw materials that weigh 1 pound, blah, 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 and 50 GP spent. That allows a character to make a check using identify skill with advantage, right? Obviously, that would be sensible. As part of the long rest, you can use alchemical supplies to make 1 dose of acid, alchemist fire, antitoxin, oil, perfume, or soap. So there's some of them are covered by this, for sure. Subtract half the value of the creature. Oh, okay, so that's that. Well, that's the alchemical one. Let's compare that with the healer's kit. I think the healer's kit is probably vastly superior to the alchemical one in terms of how it is described in its uses. So herbalism kit, we've got here identify poison, so it allows you to identify a poison, and find plants. Okay, so that's interesting, weird but interesting. Herbalism kit, proficiency with an herbalism kit allows you to identify plants and safely collect their useful elements. Okay, we kind of figured that out. Components, what's in it? Herbalism kit includes pouch to store herbs, clippers, leather gloves for collecting plants, a mortar and a pestle, and several glass jars. So there's a bit of equipment in the alchemist supplies that maybe the herbalist would benefit from, and there's a bit of crossover. How does it work though? Well, the herbalism kit includes many different skills. This is the interesting part for me. Your knowledge of this, so if you're using Arcana with a herbalism kit, it says this: your knowledge of the nature and uses of herbs can add insight to your magical studies that deal with plants and your attempts to identify potions. So I think we were on the right track by adding Arcana into the Doctor, because I feel like the herbalism kit is around that sort of thing. So that kind of, I think we're on the right track. It also has investigation. You can inspect an area overgrown with plants, and your proficiency can help you pick out details and clues that others might miss. So I think, that's more in the plant way. We've also got medicine listed down with the herbalism kit, so it's very specific to that. Your mastery of herbalism improves your ability to treat illnesses and wounds by augmenting your methods of care with medical plants. It doesn't say anything about making antitoxin though. Although it would, I feel like that should be something you should be able to do with a herbalism kit. It just doesn't state that. An oversight by the designers maybe. Nature and survival. When you travel in the world, so we had nature down. We've got medicine, obviously. Your skill in herbalism makes you easier to identify plants and spot sources of food that others might overlook. I guess what this suggests is maybe survival is also a skill that needs to be tied to this. We need to have a very close look at how survival works, though. But I'm definitely open now to seeing this. Identify plants. That's not a skill, that's just there. You can identify most plants with a quick inspection of their appearance and smell. So in other words, no real check required, you just do it. Okay, so, and that's if you're proficient with a herbalism kit. So it's doing a couple of different things, but it's not doing all the things we want it to necessarily do, although it probably should allow you to make remedies, So I am leaning toward, more and more I'm leaning towards, we probably need to make the alchemist supplies or the herbalism kit both options to go with. I really am. After seeing that, I think that would make a lot of sense. Let's have a look at how survival works. How is survival used in 5e? Survival is under wisdom. Do we have an example? Okay, survival. The DM might ask you to make a wisdom survival check to follow tracks. Well, that's not what a doctor's doing. Hunt wild game. Again, not really what we're looking for. Guide your group through frozen wastelands. Identify signs of owlbears that live nearby. Predict weather or avoid quicksand and other Natural hazard. I think survival is the wrong way to go. I think nature is the way to go. So we won't add that to our skills. But I am inclined to think we probably should add in alchemist's supplies. I really do. Just because of the way that it's sort of worded. And kind of, you know, there's a few of you who are going to be sort of stuck with DMs following the letter of the law, or the raw of poorly conceived concepts in Dungeons and Dragons 2024. So let's add it. Alchemists. Now we're not going to give them advantage on using alchemist supplies, because I don't think that's a good idea. We're not trying to make them good at making alchemist fire and stuff like that. The idea is the medicine. So the medicine has to be the thing, the wisdom check for medicine checks and stuff related to that. It has to be that. But I think that there should be an option to do that. That seems like a reasonable sort of addition. Give them a choice. Select one from the following: alchemist supplies or herbalism kit. You have to decide. Okay. What this does, though, is it means we need to create a couple of different kits in terms of gear now as a result of this, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. Not a huge fan of having to do that, but it's there now, so we have to see. So we have to make 2 kits for this. This is going to be C. And so I think each one, every kit will need to have a herbalist kit. I think that's the no-brainer, has to have herbalist kit. But let's copy and paste this. And let's start a new one. Actually, no, I don't want to do that. I want to build out the first one as A, and then do B, and then I'll copy and paste A, because it'll probably be very similar, and then transfer it over, because I think the herbalism kit and the alchemist kit, well, the alchemist kit is actually very expensive, so it's actually easier. Oh, I like easier. Easy is good. Here we go. Option B. Alchemist kit only. Because it's 50 gold. Alchemist supplies. Okay, alchemist supplies. We've added that in. So we just need to make the first kit. There's kit A, kit B, kit C. Okay. Well, let's look at the gear. So Roper, hey, thank you for that. That led me down a garden path, but it was an important garden path, I think, for a doctor background. Oh, fuck, let's do it. Let's build out our kit. What would a doctor need in terms of stuff? Not an abacus, not acid. Alchemist fire, absolutely not. Ammunition, no. Antitoxins, too expensive because it's 50 gold. Arcane focus, no. Backpack, probably yes. So let's add them in after these. Backpack. Oh, do I need to go lowercase, uppercase? I can't even remember if I've been going up or down. Have I been going up or down? Well, I'm going the wrong way too, I suppose. Because if I look at here, okay, I've been going lower. Okay, backpack. Okay, so after the backpack, what else? Ball bearings, no. Barrel, basket, bedroll. I don't think so. We'll leave that alone. Bell, no. Blanket, not really. Block and tackle, book. bottle, glass, buckets, caltrops, candle, no, case, chain, chalk, no, chest, climber's kit, no, clothes. Let's just give them, do I want to give them any kind of clothes? Common clothes, costume clothes, traveller's clothes. I think most doctors are going to wind up being sort of travellers. Let's just go traveller's clothes. Traveller's clothes. It's 2 gold. It's cheaper. Let's go with that one. Component pouch. What else? Component pouch. When I make up these lists of things, it's just to help the player determine if they want to just buy all their own gear and they don't like the kit, they can kind of get an idea of the things to grab. That's why we make these in the first place. Droid supplies, no. Fishing tackle, no. Flask, tankard, grappling hook, hammer, healer's kit. We've got the healer's kit already. Holy water, no. Holy water is not appropriate. It's also too much. Hunter's trap, no. Ink, pen, no. Lamp, lantern, lock, manacles, magnifying glass, too expensive. Mess kit, no. We'll leave it. Mirror, oil, I don't think so. Paper, parchment, perfume, pick, piton, poison basic, not poisoning people. Potion of healing, nope. Pouch, quiver, rations, robes, hemp rope, sack, scales, sealing wax, shovel, whistle, no. Signet ring, soap, spikes. Let's give them the soap. Just you've got to wash your hands right before doing your business. I'm being a little bit facetious here. Spikes, spyglass, tent, tinderbox, torch, and a water skin. I think we can give the water skin for free as well. Let's do that. I think that's basically your kit if you go with kit A. I think that would be the gist of it. So now we just got to determine how expensive is all of that stuff and whether it's going to work. Correct? So the healer's kit is 5 gold. So we'll add that to the cost of our herbalism kit. Our herbalism kit is how much? Herbalism kit is really cheap. It's 5 gold. 5 gold of all things. So that comes to 10 in total. Man, the healer's kit is cheap. Okay, and then a backpack, which isn't going to be that expensive, is 2 gold plus 2. And then a traveller's clothes. Well, we can probably just go common clothes. Let's just go common clothes. Traveller's clothes. Oh, traveller's clothes is a little bit more expensive. Common clothes. No, let's stay with the traveller's clothes. Traveller's clothes is 2 gold, so that's all right. I think we go another plus 2. That comes to 14. Traveller's clothes 2 gold, so that's cool. And then we've got soap, which is not even worth worrying about. And then the water skin is 2 silver. Let's not worry about that at all. So then we're getting a lot of money up front. The doctor doesn't really need to have a lot of different things. I think the healer's kit and the herbalism kit are probably the most important aspects, and the rest of it is just cash. I'm alright with that. I don't think that's a problem. So 50. So they will get 36 gold, which is a lot. But based on our our gear loadout, I think that's probably the best way to sort of structure it. That's interesting. Let's go over to the chat and see what you guys have to say, if there's some things you think might need to be added. But you sold me on it, Roper. You definitely sold me on the idea of putting in the alchemist supplies as a possibility. We've got it there. Alchemy main goal for sentries, change lead to gold. Yes, I'm aware. By the way, you can do that in a nuclear reactor, but then you don't want the gold. No, probably not. Not for a very long time. Or eternal life. Fred Huber giving me lots of Google in a bit. Okay, all right. Why did Cal-Rel remove his message? I'm not sure. Leaving you guys some words for the fire take. Take care. All right, I'll see you later. Prepare, cook, and survive. I think we have nailed down our doctor background. I think that is our background for the doctor. So let's review. I'm relatively happy with the end result of what we've been working on today. I think that this works. I think it gives you what you're trying to achieve with them. I don't know that they are overpowered. Almost nothing here is sort of combat related, but there's a lot of stuff that you would probably be doing outside of combat, which I'm actually fine with. A lot of it would be very beneficial, like there's lots and lots. So the athlete, so this is the athlete background that we've made. So we get athletics or acrobatics, or you can have athletics or acrobatics. Oh, you get athletics and acrobatics, or you get athletics or acrobatics, and you get to pick one of the following: animal handling or survival. So those are sort of where we've gone with the athlete. And then tool proficiencies, we've given you the climber's kit. It's the only one that's sort of left that we could kind of work with. Languages, pretty much the same as everybody else's, common in one other language. Athlete feature, you have advantage on athletics, strength checks, or acrobatics, dexterity checks that you are proficient with. So that's to lean into whichever way you want to go with this. But you won't get both. You will only get one. You got your kits for your gear worked out. I think that's pretty solid too. Our doctor, we've given them medicine, obviously, and select one other. It could be animal handling, arcana, investigation, nature, or religion. So we've given you lots to sort of work with. You've got a bit of flexibility. Your tool proficiencies, you can pick one of the following: alchemist supplies or the herbalism kit. I think the herbalism kit is probably going to be better for you, but you know, the alchemist supplies might have unexpected sort of benefits. Who knows? Languages, you gain common and one other language. This is pretty standard. The doctor feature, you have advantage on checks related to healing and diagnosis of illnesses with medicine wisdom checks. So that is exactly what we want the doctor to do. Okay, and then we've got our kits. So these are, along with all the rest of them that we've done today and the ones we've done in the past, will be on the paid tier of my Patreon. And when I get them all done, I will put them into a document and put it all up onto DriveThru RPG as pay what you want. But if you want to keep supporting me working through all the backgrounds and the species and the classes for 5e, whether that's 2014 or 2024, support on Patreon is appreciated. Okay, that certainly keeps me going. Let's end this poll, and I think we've got it done. I'm relatively happy. Do you want a remastered athlete or doctor background for your Dungeons & Dragons 5e game? Yes, 40% out of 5 votes. No, so one person doesn't. Undecided and just watching. Okay. So, you know, it's... I don't think that the athlete background was a particularly bad one. It maybe just not... The vision for it was not spot on. And I think that this is... I honestly think this is probably more useful to you trying to capture the concept of the doctor and the athlete than what you've been given. So, yeah. And what was the feature for the athlete in the Mythic Odysseys? You have attracted admiration among spectators, fellow athletes, and trainers in the religion that hosted your past athletics victories. In the region, okay. When visiting a settlement within 100 miles of where you grew up, there is a 50% chance you can find someone there who admires you and is willing to provide information or temporary shelter. Oh God, it's the shelter thing again. Between adventures you might complete. Yeah, it wasn't a great one. I think what we have is vastly better mechanically. And narratively, I think that it's capturing that vibe. So yeah, I think that's a better outcome. And that is what we have for today. And I'll be back next week, and we'll do some more backgrounds. I can't remember which one it is, but I know that we are doing some. Honestly, I don't think we're doing a bartender. That's right, we're doing a bartender in the stable hand next week. Whew, I should have remembered that one, right? Surely. That is such. I am amazed that doesn't even exist. How is it they managed to miss that one? Anyway, huge thank you to everybody who's been watching and listening. Thank you for taking part in the poll, if you took part in the poll. I want to thank those people in chat. Cal Rell, Prepare, Cook and Survive. Fred Huber, obviously. Roper 666, really helpful today. Took me in a direction I wasn't expecting, but I think it had some worth. So, yes, thank you very much for that. And I think that's everybody who was in the chat today that was providing feedback and information and just commenting. So thank you. Huge thank you to all of my paid patrons who support me on Patreon so that I keep live streaming and doing this stuff, because without you, I probably would stop. I am semi-retired after all. I don't work full-time anymore. And look, wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. And yes, the image I'm showing you is quite deliberate. I could not help myself. Okay? Watch a bit of Bollywood. I like musicals myself. This is definitely a bit saucy. Anyway, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.